Hey everyone, welcome. Clint Butler here from SIA, and on behalf of the entire SIA crew, thank you for joining. Test number 64, PNG versus JPG, which is the better image file. Grody, let's get into this one. All right, so today, WebP is actually, everyone is kind of jumping on the bandwagon. Oh yeah, you should do WebP, you should do WebP. WebP is the greatest ever. And they're all acting like it's relatively new. But it's been around since 2010, and Google made WebP image file format, and a lot of the browsers didn't implement it so that they can read it. And so what we were ended up with is a slow transition from JPEG to WebP. And before that, it was PNG to JPEG. And the reason you want to do that is it's all about page speed. A WebP or a JPEG is could be a rather large file, and then a WebP is better optimized. It's like 33%. It could be optimized at 33% better than a JPEG, and so it takes less time to load that image. And so what this test was that at the time the test was conducted, I believe it was 2018 test. The idea was that someone got it in their head that PNGs were actually preferred by Google, which is weird because PNGs typically load slower than JPEGs. So from the test result, you can see right there at the bottom. As soon as the PNG was put on the page, the test page dropped to the bottom of the results, and it's an indication of a significant change in page speed that caused that drop. So, what I mean by that is, let's say all the test pages were loading at 1.5 seconds. We put the JPEG on there, and that page was 2 seconds, and then we put the PNG on there, and that was 3.54 seconds. That significant difference between all of those pages means that this is the slowest one, so we're not going to we'll reduce it on the rankings. If you change that up and the PNG actually loaded probably the same as the JPEG, I doubt we would have seen that significant of a drop. But so it's the load time that was killing it in this test. Now you have the new craze inside of the internet marketing world and the SEO world, for example, is WebP. Now this has been around since 2010, like I said. There are services, Smush Pro, WP Rocket, and some other things that allow you to implement this. But the reason it hadn't jumped on is because Google made it, but didn't update Chrome and did the various different instances of Chrome. Like their latest one would get it, but the older ones would not. And you couldn't see WebP with some browsers. Firefox was just as slow. It was a Google thing. This is Google, and we're trying to implement this, and Firefox as well. We don't care about you, Google, in this particular web thing until a lot of people are using it. So as developers and web designers and et cetera caught on that WebP was faster than JPEG, they got more and more, and then finally Firefox and Safari are now allow or can read WebP. So typically, as a default, as a webmaster now, you can just go straight to WebP and you'll be fine. And you don't have to have a service push it over. But there is even a better one. It's called AVIF. And if you don't know what AVIF is basically there's a movie format for AVIF, and then now there's an image one built off of the back of that movie format to make the images better. In this case, they're actually 50% smaller than a JPEG, and you can't really tell the difference between the image that's in JPEG and the image that's in AVIF. The compression doesn't mess up the image, doesn't make it even more grainy and stuff. If you're a photographer, that you probably notice the graininess. Let's be honest. If you're a photographer and you're looking at your image and you put it on the web, you're probably going to notice the graininess between the two. But for the average user, they wouldn't even be able to tell the difference between the two, and your page speed would be a whole lot better. So you can implement this stuff, AVIF and WebP and JPEGs today. And there's a tool. It's called Squish. It's here. It's a Google app. So you drop your image in here, and then you can pick the format you want, and then upload it to your website, and you can save yourself the the subscription to the image optimization plugins or whatever else. If you want to, you just got to add this one little step to your workflow that those are doing for you automatically. If you're going to switch to AVIF and see if that works for you and it does, it makes your sites even all that much better, you're pretty much limited to Squish. I tried to check Photoshop, but I'm on a Mac and Photoshop just updated and it was stuck in the verification and it was taking too long and I'm kind of impatient. So, but you can check in Photoshop and see if you can save to AVIF. If not, you just bring it over here, bring your JPEGs over here that you're done with. You've edited and modified, and then transfer it over and you get them compressed in Squish. And boom, Bob's your uncle. You have a really good optimized page or image that is busted down and a lot less of a strain on your servers and the internet and all that madness. So keep this in mind. I mean, do you have to use AVIF? Are they really going to know if you have all WebPs on there and you have a plugin that's taking care of the WebP stuff? Are they going to see that difference between the two? Because it's not significant, right? Let me show you the numbers here. It's like 33% versus 30%. So an average user, are they really going to notice this? Probably not, unless you have a whole lot of images. And then that all will add up. But if you have a plugin that's already converting all your JPEGs over to WebP for you, then AVIF probably adding that step is probably not necessary, unless you want to eliminate that plugin altogether from your tool set. And in which case that would be, in some cases, some of those image optimization plugins are getting a little bit too counterproductive compared to other things. So like I have Smush Pro and that has lazy loader and CDNs and all that other stuff, but all I really want is you to optimize my images. I don't need all that other crap. I can use WP Rocket, WP Offload to set up CDNs and all that stuff. I don't need you to add all these other features. Just optimize my images for me, right? So if that's the case and you get tired of doing that, you can just switch over to AVIF entirely for future pages, shut off the optimization plugins, and then just do direct uploads to AVIF, and you'll be okay. One of the factors that if you do that, keep in mind, if you do that, let's say this image is 1200 by 780, and that's the requirement. But when I minimize it, it's going to change the image size inside of what loads, and that may be less, right? Modern builders, Oxygen, for example, will have set sizes for these, and then these plugins will create set sizes for those different views. So it's not loading a 1200 by 80, it's loading a 500 by whatever, right? And reducing the load time for the page for a mobile user. So keep that in mind too, that you have to account for that, especially if you're using some larger image size, larger image dimension stuff. If you're gonna go that whole manual route, I would kind of mix them both. Personally, maybe put AVIF and use a plugin to create those, but you have to see if your plugin is compatible with AVIF to pull that off. All right, so hopefully this helps you out. Again, PNG is slower than JPEG. JPEG is slower than WebP. WebP is slower than AVIF. And if you're truly a page speed fanatic, that matters to you. And implement that in your business as it applies to you. And we'll see you in the next video.